The Season 10 PTR has concluded, and I've been playing the living hell of it for the last week, testing 20 or so different builds and all the new content, and I'm here to tell you all about it, because it's actually pretty decent. Basically, if you've been enjoying the last couple of seasons, then you'll enjoy this one more, and if you didn't, then you probably won't enjoy this one either, because there's no real massive changes here. Alright, with that said, now here's an overview of the season. Season 10 introduces an Infernal Horde overhaul, new Chaos armor, new seasonal powers, now called perks, new uniques, quite a few new builds along with balance and meta updates, and finally, some random shit that doesn't belong in the previous categories. Let's go through them one by one and start with the Infernal Hordes. Are they any good now? Well, shit, son, yes, much better. Spectacular? No, better, definitely. What do you mean, big penis man? Well, it's still Infernal Hordes. Most of the boons have been changed in some way, making them somewhat more balanced, and we'll have to find a new meta as to how to maximize ether. But more importantly, we now have Chaos Waves. And what the hell are Chaos Waves? Glad you asked. It's these purple assholes that basically open up a new game mode in some way. Perhaps you're getting a mass you need to protect, perhaps you'll get bomb rushed by a gazillion goblins, or perhaps the entire screen is covered with bullshit that you need to dodge. In any way, these were fun. I'll give them that, spicing up the hordes quite a bit. On top of that, an entirely new boss is introduced, which you'll have to spend 666 ether to spawn. Unfortunately, I don't know what the hell this boss does, because all the builds I tried, just one-shotted the guy. But watching some footage of dogshit builds fighting him, it looked interesting. So, after the PTR, do I have any feedback regarding the hordes? Honestly, man, I think Blizz did a good job here from what I saw and tried myself. The only thing that sucked balls was the protecting mass mode, mainly because the spawning waves were insanely slow. Other than that, though, pretty good. Next on the agenda, Chaos Armor. And what the hell is Chaos Armor? Well, it's your typical uniques, but they can roll on the armor slots instead. For example, you can get a Banished Talisman as a pair of gloves, boots, or any other armor, and on top of that they've got a max rolled aspect that is juiced by 20%. So what do I think about these? I think the concept of these is great, and we desperately needed something like this. They enabled more builds, but more importantly, a lot more ways to play the same builds. And generally, you will be using offensive uniques, meaning there's always a trade-off where you're nuking your defenses to use them. So far, so good, but is there anything shit about them? Not really. But there are some things that definitely was overlooked. For starters, this is how your inventory will look like if you gather a bunch of boots. Basically, we're back to Season 0 when it comes to inventory management. You don't know what the hell is behind these boots, forcing you to go through every item one by one, sorting them, and having no clue in hell what you're looking at unless you hover over them. This is definitely an oversight, and we need some kind of special Chaos Armor icon for sorting our gear. Secondly, they only dropped from Infernal Hordes, and they are account-bound. Or rather, after playing the PTR for a good chunk of a working week, I only found them there. Meaning, to get yourself some Chaos Armor, you're 100% forced to run a shit ton of Infernal Hordes. I am fine with them being account-bound. Hell, I even think this makes them more interesting. I am also fine with them being mainly found in hordes. But I'd like it if they were at least available in other forms of content. Otherwise, there's not really any joy in farming anymore. Rather, farming Chaos Armor is going to feel exactly like farming mythics and uniques. You know exactly where to farm them, and just run that piece of content over and over again until you get the one you want. I don't know about you, but I find Uber farming the most boring shit ever, and I'd prefer if there was at least some joy in finding Chaos Armor. Alright, so that's the Chaos Armor. Overall, though, I think these are one of the best additions to the game so far. But before we continue, Did you know that I'm watching you? Every mouse click and sick website you've ever visited? Or well, I could be, because you're not using a VPN. Introducing the #1 must-have tool for surfing the web, Surfshark. Because without a VPN, all of your personal info is more easily available than your flaccid manhood on your favorite dating website. Using it is easy. You just connect to a VPN server, changing your IP and encrypting all of your personal data. And if that's not enough, if you're anything like me, then you're hoarding streaming websites. And why am I talking about this? Well, damn, because using Surfshark, you can access shows that were previously inaccessible in your country, meaning you don't need 10 streaming websites no longer, because chances are the show is available in another country. Personally, I ditched half of my services and saved some bank on top of that. And better yet, using my link, you'll get 4 extra months of Surfshark, including all of these additional features to make your life easier. And if it wasn't for you, then there's 30-day money-back guarantee. But honestly, this service is a must-have at this point. Check it out in my pinned comment or description. You can thank me later. Next up, let's discuss the perks that are definitely not seasonal powers. What are these, and why are they called perks? They're seasonal powers, and they're called perks because they're supposedly more build-enabling than perks, which is partially true. So, what do I think about the perks? Well, a lot of them are garbage tier, as per usual, which is fine. They can't all be great. But it's basically the same ones being fucking shit season after season. Press X and deal a fixed amount of damage. They're always garbage tier because we don't get any tools to scale them properly, and the one PTR we did, they completely broke the game. Perhaps in Season 20 we'll get rid of them. But there are some gems in here, for example, the Barb ones, enabling Frenzy and other basic builds other than Lunging Strike to be played, or the Sork ones, making core skills OP as hell. Overall though, the perks are definitely the most interesting powers so far. So, any changes needed here? Well, let's just say that some of them are perhaps a bit too strong. The Sork one mentioned earlier brought ball lightning from dealing a few millions per hit to dealing trillions of damage. And when combined with the new mana shield, they also became immortal. On top of that, one of them also stopped time itself. The Necro ones, while allowing for a bunch of interesting new builds, completely nuked the screen with bullshit and blew up the server. My guess is they'll tone down the OP ones here. So I just want to leave these with this. Please, for the love of God, don't make them useless. If you change how the core skill powers function for Source, then they won't have any new builds at all. The same for Necro. This is exactly what happened in Season 8, for example. We had OP powers and new builds, they got nuked, and we had nothing. And it was the shittiest season so far in the history of D4. Please don't do this again, LOL. Just focus on fixing the bugs and tone down the OP ones slightly, if anything. Alright, let's leave the perks and check out the new uniques. Again, an overview. Saber of Chazgal, new sword for the Barb, which is boring but decent. Kilt of Blackwing, which enabled a completely new build, which, mind you, is fun as hell. Gospel of the Devotee for the Necro, allowing bone splinters to be a thing again. The Orphan Maker for the Rogue, which we'll discuss soon. Galvanic Azurite, which is a net damage boost for pretty much any lightning build, and also helped enable a new crackling energy builds. And finally, this strange thing that enabled Harambe to be a thing again. Overall, all of these uniques are great additions to the game, honestly. Some of them are build enabling, and some of them will make a strong addition to already established builds. There's issues with 2 of them though. Firstly, the Harambe one is gigabugged, and if you use the protector with this, you shielded your enemies for their entire life, which basically meant that you gave bosses trillions of extra health. So, that should probably get fixed. And then the Orphan Maker. It's basically supposed to function as the crossbow in PoE 2, forcing you to reload between shots. Unfortunately, though, the weapon is pretty trash. The reload is too slow to be used, and to offset this, it would need a large buff. The other uniques, though, pretty good. Let's leave the uniques and check out the new meta and builds, shall we? Starting with the Rogue class. This class is absolute garbage in Season 10. Like actual hot garbage. The strongest rogue pushing build, which was already weak compared to the other classes, got nuked, seeing the removal of the old powers. And without this one, all of the top rogue builds are topping out at around pit 100. Slap on the fact that Azure Wrath was completely gutted as well, and the fact that Death Trap is now an absolute hellhole to gear for, and this class has basically nothing left. The only shining light left for this class is Spin to Win, due to the new powers granting us a large chunk of additional damage as long as we keep moving. And fortunate for us, this build is also insanely fun. But overall, this class is hot garbage in Season 10, miles behind all the other classes. Sad times? Any feedback? Yes. This class desperately needs some big-ass buffs. Most of its damage is still tied to crowd controls, which is a pain to push with, and now that all of the key passives are capped, the class has nothing to scale. The class is now fairly balanced between its different builds, but compared to the other classes, oh man. Alright, and next we have what is going to be a great class next season. Mighty Throw is still looking to be the strongest pit-pushing build, but introducing the new powers, we have some other choices to pick from. Frenzy is looking strong as hell. So does Hota. Hell, even Bleed could be making a return. And all of these builds can farm pit 100s while also being fun as hell. So overall, this class is looking fantastic next season and will probably be my starter class. Not really any important feedback here. Next up is the Sork, which actually has a lot going for it. It has two outliers, Hydra and Core skills. This is simply due to the new core skill powers being absolutely broken when combined with the mana shield, allowing them to go well beyond ridiculous. If this wasn't the case, however, then the class in itself would be a whole lot more balanced, but with a massive issue. It would suck in comparison to the other classes, apart from the Rogue, of course, but that one is barely a class anymore. So, my feedback. Mana shield definitely needs to get toned down slightly, along with the core skill powers. Because not only is it allowing for trillions upon trillions of damage, it also makes you immortal at the same time. But as I stated previously, for the love of God, don't completely nuke or rework the powers, because then this class has absolutely nothing new. Next, the Cringe Lord. Pretty much all the new builds this season will revolve around the ultimate skills, and the class is looking to be absolutely fantastic, both in terms of pit pushing and overall fun, using this new power. We had Poop Wave, covering the entire screen in poop and dealing trillions of damage, which by the way is not annoying at all to play this season as we can just spam the blood waves. We have Bonus Storms, covering the screen in bullshit and nuking the server, which definitely needs to get fixed. Just not by removing the power, because this class would suck without it. We have Soul Rift and Blight, which for once is hella fun, and a bunch more other builds, all relying on the new powers to some extent. It's definitely the season of ultimates for the Necro, but we also have Bonus Spear, Bonus Splinters, and a whole lot of other builds that we could play as well. Only problem with these being that they're not really new, just old returning builds. What is however new is spamming the entire screen with Bonus Storms, and I want this to stay in the game. So solve the lag blizz without removing the builds. Next, we have the Wood Chopping Man. Another fantastic class next season. All its core skills are playable, with a buttload assortment of fun builds to choose from. On top of that, companions were indeed bugged during the PTR, dealing negative amounts of gazillion damage, but ignoring this, Companions are looking to be the strongest wood-chopping builds of the season. And Storm Ravens in particular is not only extremely satisfying, but also fun to play, so Druid players, rejoice. Overall, this class is looking fantastic next season, and the new unique and powers were great additions to the class. Finally, the Soyborn. This class is in an interesting spot next season, looking like the Barb. It's going to have one exceptional pit-pushing build still, the Balazan Pantaloony build. It did indeed get its damage nuked, but considering it was dealing now billions, not trillions, but it could actually deal damage upwards of quadrillions and quintillions again. So let's just say the nerfs were warranted. But it's not like Blizz nuked the entire build, rather it just got a hefty nerf. But assuming this build does not exist, the other builds of the Soyborn are looking fairly balanced. We have the Harambe build, which was bugged on the PTR, and should be clearing and farming upwards of Pit 100. We have the Evade build, which should do the same. We have Feather Quill Volley and more. All of these builds have one thing in common now though, they're actually working as you would expect. What do I mean by this? Well shit, take Harambe for example. It now finally utilizes Harambe skills, having the Protector pull enemies in and dealing AoE damage as you would expect. Evade and Quill Volley are using the Seeker and Feather skills. It took a few seasons, but we're now done utilizing the Hunter and the Jaguar Spirit Halls in every build and actually have different options to choose from. Overall, I think this is great, and once Balazan is gone from the game, this class is going to be way more balanced in itself and compared to the other classes. Alright, so overall the balance for Season 10 is looking pretty shit, but we have new builds. So that's fine, I guess. The balance in this game does not have to be great. Hell, it doesn't have to be decent in my opinion, as long as it's always new builds that are OP. The real problem is when the same builds are OP each season, which is true for Mighty Throw, Hoop Wave and Hydra at the moment. Nerf next season perhaps. And finally, we have some random changes we need to discuss. For starters, we had a great change to the Uber bosses. The phasing is finally gone. Instead, they have a shield, which you can blow up if you've got enough damage, and if you don't, meaning if you suck at the game, then you're forced to play the entire fight. I think this is a good compromise. If you play a shitty build and want a proper fight, then you'll get that, and if you're playing an OP meta build that just wants to spam the Uber bosses, then you can do that as well. Next, a change I'm not fond of. Azure Wrath and flat scaling damage tempers no longer works with attack speed. This instantly removed 10 or so different decent builds from the game. Basically, this change removed a large chunk of fairly balanced, and mind you, fun as hell, builds from the game. Rather than doing this, just add the attack speed scaling as a feature, because reducing the amount of viable builds in this game is not what we need at the moment, as we are already limited on options. Next, in the new season we're getting these Chaos Rift things. They'll spawn in Hell Tides and Nightmare dungeons and will be your main way of obtaining the seasonal perks and their currency, it seems. They do have some issues though. For starters, they're extremely tough for some reason. When I was leveling, they had like 10 times the health of normal monsters for no additional reward. Having them like this would mean skipping them while leveling and heading back when you're OP, which is not particularly fun when leveling. On top of that, I didn't get anything at all from completing them in Torment, which is supposed to be one of the main ways of obtaining Chaos Armor, according to the patch notes. This was definitely not the case, so they sure need some work here. And finally, I want to mention the Infernal Compasses. Back in, I think it was Season 5, or perhaps it's PTR, we were able to craft our own compasses. I need this back in the game due to several reasons. It would require less picking up and storing the compasses and rather craft them when needed. And using sigil dust as it used to, it would also allow us to run the content we want to. Prefer hordes, overhaul nightmare dungeons? Then salvage your dungeon sigils and run the compasses. Overall, I think this would be a great quality of life upgrade. All right, folks, that's an overview of the new season and what I think needs fixing. And yes, we still need more endgame, masterworking and enchanting changes, an auction house, leaderboards and more. But I doubt we'll be getting that before the expansion. It is what it is. With that said, drop a sub and check out Surfshark. It's an actual good program that I'm using myself. And I'll see you in the next one.